want to welcome you in your language. So, hola, bienvenidos, soy Lisa Martin y estoy muy contenta de estar con ustedes hoy. Mi español no está perfecto, pero I try. So that's why we have Alexandra. But I'm just so grateful that those who speak both English and Spanish are here today, once again, to hear about this information. So with that, let's go ahead and get started on our topic today. And as Kathleen said, more than food, shelter, and clothing, the need for strong, trusting relationships with adults. So what are our learning outcomes today? What are we going to take away with us? Well, the first is we're going to define and understand attachment theory. We're also going to look at its importance to a child's healthy sense of self and ability to build positive relationships with others, as well as their physical health. We will also look at challenges and be able to name some in building a trusting relationship. And then we're also going to come away with the ability to list 4 strategies to build strong, secure-based relationships with our children that we are serving. So with that, we are going to start with an activity. We are going to do a word cloud. And the question that's going to pop up on your screen in a moment is, what do children need from parents, caregivers to learn and grow into healthy, productive adults? I am putting something in chat right now. You're going to click on a link in chat, and it is www.menti.com. When you put that either in your browser or you click on that link, you're going to be asked to enter a code, and that code is 159292. After you click the submit button, you are going to be given the opportunity to put 5 one-word answers and then click submit, and it will populate our word cloud. So I am going to do a new share and pull this screen up so that you guys can see that. So this is what's going to make our word cloud. So once again, you're going to put in your browser or click on www.menti.com. You're going to put in the code, and after you put in the code, you will see what is on the screen now. You're going to put in your one-word answer, click submit, and then we are going to get to see our word cloud populate.
Lisa, can you please say the code again? Because once we enter into Mentimeter, it's harder to remember the code.
Yes, it's 1500-9292.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone can click on the link Lisa provided. If that does not work, just copy and paste it into a new tab and it'll pop open. And then you put your password.
It's also at the top of the screen now, www.menti.com. And then you'll use the code 1500-9292. So right now I see support, love. You're going to put in, think of 5 one-word answers. There we go. They're coming in now. And basically, those of you who may not have had experience doing a word cloud, the largest words are the words that have been used the most. So right now, a lot of people are putting in support, attention, love, security, communication, guidance, and then we also have empathy, hugs, kindness, safety, protection, patience, social skills, unconditional love, health. Time, interest.
I'm so sorry to interrupt really quick, but Alexandria, I think that you are in the English channel. Yeah.
Jackie, can we check with our team? Or can they hear Alexandra now?
Okay. So this is a beautiful collection of words that describe what we believe children need to grow and learn to become productive adults. And so a lot of us have heard these words before. But in order for us to be supportive, to give love, to provide trust, to have communication, and all these other words that we're seeing in our word cloud, is we need to be able to build a relationship with the children. We need to be able to have an attachment with them. Because if we don't have that attachment, there's not going to be that trust that comes in. So what we're going to be talking about a lot today is attachment. And we are going to go on and look at that now. So attachment theory. What is it and how did it all come to be? Well, during World War II and after World War II, a man named John Bowlby, who was an English psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, he researched relationships with children and moms. And what piqued his interest was when he was studying, looking, and researching separation and anxiety. And he used research to share findings on building healthy and positive relationships between adults and children. And today he is known as the father of attachment theory. So what is the definition of attachment theory? Attachment theory in developmental psychology is the theory that humans are born with a need to form a close emotional bond with a caregiver, and that such a bond will develop during the 6 months of a child's life if the caregiver is appropriately responsive. Bowlby and those after him were able to demonstrate that secure-based attachments are built by nurturing and responsiveness from the adult towards the child. And this thought was completely different from behaviorists that came before him. They said that attachment was built by just providing basic physical needs alone, such as food. But Bowlby and others have discovered that that is not all that it takes. The running theme of the theory is that adults who provide responsive care to their children provide space for a child to feel secure. This security gives them the ability to trust the environment to explore. And exploration is huge, especially for children who are in their toddler years, the second age of infancy or the mid-age of infancy, because they're moving around, they're learning to walk, to crawl, to roll, to sit. They are beginning to scaffold their own learning, and they are, learning about cause and effect and watching us to imitate what we're doing. They're learning how to talk. So in order for them to really get out in the world, they need that environment to be trustworthy, and they need to feel safe and secure in it. That can't happen without the base. And where does that come from? The secure base. Well, Mary Ainsworth, an American-Canadian developmental psychologist, developed the concept of secure base. A secure base attachment is when the parent or caregiver is in close proximity to the child. So basically what happens is the child uses the parent caregiver as a base to provide the security needed to move about the world. The child is then able to make easy contact with the parent, who is the base. So we see this sometimes in the classroom. When a caregiver or a teacher is building that relationship and the child starts feeling comfortable, they will move away from the caregiver or parent. And then every once in a while, they'll have to look and make that eye contact or go over and touch the caregiver, and just to make sure, okay, I know you're here, you're with me, you're here to protect me and meet my needs. And then they're off and running again. You'll have toddlers, twos and threes, run up, pick me up. You pick them up, and as soon as you do, they're kicking their legs to be put back down. And that's because in that moment, you're the base that's letting them feel protected and secure to continue to move around the environment that they are in. Attachment theory and its understanding are important because it gives adults who work with children the ability to learn about and provide relationships with children that promote brain growth, particularly in the midbrain, which is where social and emotional development concepts are built. Adults who provide secure-based attachment with young children through nurturance and responsive care optimize the relationship to support the following. Development of a healthy sense of self in the child. When you have a secure-based attachment with an adult, the child learns that they are capable. They have a healthy self-esteem. They will develop emotional regulation. They will learn that it's okay to cry and maybe how to show your emotions, how to control and regulate your emotions. What do I need to do when I'm sad? How do I help myself? We go from crying to, and then when you come home from school, I'm hungry, I'm going to the refrigerator, or I'm sad, I need to journal, right? It also establishes the foundations for trust, empathy, and verbal and nonverbal communication. It teaches children how to have relationships with others. So these are the things that make attachment theory and implementing attachment important. But there is another piece, and what I want to do is share a video. The video that we are about to watch is going to talk about the relationship between a parent and a child. It's also going to talk about the importance of attachment as it relates to having a good physical health going into adulthood. It's also going to talk about how important it is for the adult to have support. We always talk about in attachment, the child, right? We need to form an attachment with the child. Well, if the adult is struggling with issues, we need to help that adult come into a place where they can learn how to form an attachment with a child. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video.
John Bowlby was a British psychologist, and he became extremely interested in child-mother separation during the bombing of London. The bombing of London, a lot of parents sent their kids to the safety of the countryside. And the kids were with safe people. They were well cared for. They were well fed. But they still had a very negative response to the separation from their mothers. At that point, he looked at the biology that was emerging in primatology. A monkey infant gets almost all its nutrition in the first 2 or 3 months of life from its mother, from lactation. But the infant who's weaned still seeks.
Okay, here we go. I clicked on the chat button. I shouldn't have done that. There we go.
John Bowlby was a British safety of the countryside. And the kids were with safe people. They were well cared for. They were well fed. But they still had a very negative response to the separation from their mothers. At that point, he looked at the biology that was emerging in primatology. A monkey infant gets almost all its nutrition in the first 2 or 3 months of life from its mother, from lactation. But the infant who's weaned still seeks proximity. You'll see the infant reach out and touch the mom's tail or touch its coat. There's a continuing lifelong desire for proximity and contact. And Bowlby and others have seen that proximity seeking and that contact seeking as being cornerstones of what they call attachment behavior.
In the first part of the 20th century, behaviorists and psychoanalysts claimed that babies love their parents because you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. The innovation of Bowlby was to observe that that can't be all, that what the child needs is not only to be fed, but also to be held by an understanding, sensitive, and responsive adult, and that optimal social and mental health outcomes will follow from that. And 60 or more years on now, we have a half century of evidence showing that he was more or less right.
Our program at the Center for Babies, Toddlers, and Families is really based on the theories of John Bowlby, with the idea that we really need to help parents and children form a secure attachment. So oftentimes, families are referred to us when the parents have had very difficult childhoods themselves and are really struggling in this role of being a parent.
Like I said, I never had a mommy. I was never taught how to take care of anybody or myself, so it was like very hard. Like I wouldn't have patience, like the crying, like I would, scream at her and stuff like that, And
For many parents who really were neglected as children, hearing a baby cry triggers in them their own feelings of that unrelenting crying that they did. So for Pearl, it was very, very difficult for her to be able to meet her child's needs.
push it, push this button. Yeah, hard, push it.
We've partnered with the Center for Attachment Research at the new school for a series of attachment measures to test that our intervention is effective.
So come on in, Pearl. That's going to be your chair. So just put her down and let her have a go at whatever she wants to do in here.
Okay.
Okay? We measure the attachment relationship with a laboratory scenario that takes 20 minutes. The critical point is where the mother gets a cue to leave the room.
Bye, baby girl. See you later.
Some children look on the outside like they're very independent and seem not to notice, but physiologically are very aroused and stay aroused even in the presence of when that caregiver returns. By contrast, the securely attached child often notices, cries when the caregiver leaves, and when the caregiver comes back, easily turns to the caregiver and looks to the caregiver to be comforted, and then they can get back to some kind of homeostasis.
Okay, you play with them.
We think this response is one of the hallmarks of mental health.
No.
What is so interesting about childhood development is that we know a lot about the long-term, lifelong consequences of early life adversity, ranging from psychological effects like substance abuse and depression, but also biological consequences like increased incidence of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and a whole host of other physical ailments. One of the things we know that can lead down the path towards cardiovascular disease is chronic inflammation. Inflammation is a biological response that helps the body counteract an infection. The body produces chemicals which activate the immune system and allow it to get rid of the infective agent. When the infection is contained, the body calls forth cortisol to try to turn down the inflammation. Now, this is all good, but there are situations, especially connected with traumatic experiences, in which that cortisol response doesn't happen. So these people who had these adverse early life experiences had elevated levels of inflammation, which is at the heart of cardiovascular disease. So cortisol is very important.
That's my boy.
The way that we measure cortisol is through a saliva sample obtained upon arrival at the lab and at the end of the lab visit. And our goal is to, over time, impact patterns of cortisol.
Is that okay?
At our initial measurements of these families when they were beginning the intervention, we see very low levels of attachment security as measured by their behavior. But when we look at families who have participated for 6 months or more, we see attachment security at 70%, the same level seen worldwide.
There you go.
Because higher levels of attachment security correlate with more normal cortisol responses. We're hoping to see their cortisol levels change as a result of the intervention.
You laughing at mommy? Huh? You laughing at
The main thing was it helped me a lot to focus on my child. You know, like before I couldn't tolerate the crying and it would make me crazy and I used to be depressed. But now, I mean, sometimes I can't take it, but you know, I know better now.
What have we learned from the studies of early life adversity? What we've learned is to take it seriously, that these are real biological issues. That early attachment is vital to everything else that happens. Something that is an inevitable part of who we are as human beings.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just kind of go back over a little bit of what we just heard. We talked about the definition of attachment and we looked at its importance regarding the emotional and social development of children, as well as how important it is to our physical bodies, but also how important it is to support the parent in the process. When we are talking about attachment, it does take time. It's not something that happens in a day. It's something that happens over time. And that's why it's necessary for things like keeping a child with the same caregiver over a period of time. Not having a high turnover rate when we have children who are in, care for most of the week. Assigning primary caregivers so that the children have a number one go-to person to have a secure base in the environment. So when we're talking about attachment theory, it is a main ingredient to providing a strong, healthy relationship with a child. You can have an attachment that is not healthy. You can have an insecure base attachment. And so just because someone is attached to you doesn't mean it's always healthy. And that is how we get codependency or people who get locked into abusive situations. So what we are looking for in secure base attachment are for healthy adults to form an attachment to provide supportive, responsive, nurturing care to the child. So within the constructs of that relationship, they can learn and grow into healthy adults. So this is the importance of attachment theory. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the challenges in, forming that secure-based attachment. So the first thing is stress. If there is a lot of stress where the child is experiencing stress that's more toxic versus the type of stress that, everybody has to learn how to deal with, right? A new situation, navigating a new puzzle, that can be stressful. But we're talking about, when we're talking about stress, is toxic stress. So this is going to be, extreme, everyday, there's something happening in the child's world where they don't have a footing in the environment that they're in. It could be moving from place to place constantly. It can be living with adults who have issues. They might be, having their own problems, such as, not being able to provide enough food. So extreme poverty can put stress on a child, right? So anything that can cause that toxic stress makes it challenging to form that secure base attachment. Another thing is lack of time. It takes time, and if a caregiver or a parent is in and out and doesn't have the time to consistently be emotionally present and there, it's more challenging to build a secure base attachment. If there is a child in a child development center that happens to believe it's okay to switch children from room to room to room every 6 months, that's going to be hard because it takes time for caregivers and children to get a rhythm and form that secure base attachment. So this goes into high turnover rates. If there's multiple caregivers coming in and out, staff turnover, resource parent turnover, that makes it hard for a secure base attachment to be formed. Oversized group size. So you might have a very committed person or adult that is working with children, but in this particular program, they have 10 or 12, right? And it's very difficult to form individual secure base attachments with all those children. So high ratios of caregiver to children can also make it challenging. The other is when an adult has the inability to meet the physical and emotional needs of the child. They don't have the ability. And we've seen that sometimes. Like the parent that we saw in video who said that, she was dealing with depression. When you have an adult that is in that situation, it's hard to meet the needs of somebody else when their cup is empty. So we want to understand that if the adult can't meet the physical or emotional needs of the child, it's very difficult for a secure base attachment to form. Now, the title of this training is More Than Food, Shelter, and Clothing. So it doesn't mean it doesn't count, right? We still need to provide physical needs to the child, but we need to do that within the context of nurture, love, understanding, empathy, and spending time with. So we talked about this, depression. That's another challenge, thing that makes it challenging. Lack of knowledge. If you have an adult that just doesn't know, they don't know how to do it. They're not in there. I will give you a perfect example that might shock you, but some of you might relate because you may have been in the field for such a long time. But I remember when I was working in an infant room as a teaching assistant, this was a while ago, and I worked in a child development center that was a very big program. And there were 9 infants in this room with 3 primary caregivers. And I was like an aide that would cover lunches. And then I would close out the room in the evening when the other teachers would go home. And during the day, the site director had been trying to contact the parent. It was a new baby, 8 weeks old. And the mom brought the baby with bottles. Unfortunately, the baby didn't like the bottles, had never been on a bottle. And the mom did not wean like from breastfeeding. So the last time the child had eaten was at, the morning breastfed, and then the bottles came. So the first time the caregiver or the baby was going to have a bottle was with this new caregiver. It was the baby's first day. So guess what happened? The baby didn't eat. But an 8-week-old needs to eat like every 2 hours sometimes. So the director was calling. Finally, the mom called back and was very upset because she was in a very demanding position at her work. And she didn't understand what the problem was. We were the professionals. What do you mean you can't give the baby a bottle? What's wrong with you? Kind of, because she didn't know. She was very successful in her own career, but she did not understand about attachment. She just didn't know that the reason why the baby wasn't going to eat because the baby didn't trust the caregiver, for one, and two, it was something so new, right? There was just no way. The lack of knowledge. You can have people, adults, who are present. They're great. They're successful. They have all the money. They have great clothes for their kids. They're driving great cars. But if they don't understand attachment, all that material stuff is not going to matter. So attachment is not just about people who are poor. I want you to understand this. Just because someone has money and everything does not mean they know about attachment and how to form trusting relationships. So we also talked about this. Another thing that makes it challenging is when our adults have drug alcohol addiction, there's abuse or trauma that causes that stress. All right, so what are ways that we can build an attachment? What do we need to do? Well, there are 4 strategies I would like us to take a look at. The first one is to be physically and emotionally available to the child. Physically available means that we are physically present. We are in the room, we are there. Emotional availability means that we are putting a heart investment into the well-being of the child. We're going to fall in love with them. We're going to like them. Because the attachment is reciprocal. It's reciprocal. It's a give and take in the relationship. Okay. You can tell when caregivers or parents and resource parents have this emotional attachment because when the child is gone, they think about the child, or when they go to the next classroom. You guys, I will tell you, the first time I was a lead teacher and I was with my babies, and then they had to go the next year to the next room. If I heard my baby cry that I had the year before, I would get on the phone and call them and go, that's Jonathan, this is what he needs. Because I was attached to the child. I had an emotional investment. And so we're not just physically there. We're not just there to be there and give them a toy or this. We are interacting with them. We're playing peekaboo with them. We're helping them understand how to put toys away. We're being that support. Some of us have watched children take their first step, right? So there's that emotional availability to the child. Another strategy is to be responsive to their needs, not just their physical needs, but also their emotional needs, right? So we want to respond in a loving, nurturing way pretty quickly when we see that there is a need. The need could be, I need a diaper. It could be, I'm hungry. It could be, play with me. It could be, I need space. I'm overwhelmed right now. It could mean, I'm angry. I need something to do. Show me how to handle this anger and frustration. So we want to be responsive to that in a way that takes all these things into teaching moments regarding relationship. We are going to be responsive to them. Now, we may not be able to get to them right away, especially if we're working with something else. A parent might be in the bathroom, You know, a caregiver might be changing a diaper and then they realize a child or the another children in their space needs something. But if you're not able to get to them right away, you can let them know, I hear you. I'm doing this right now. I'm going to come as fast as I can. I know you are sad, or I know you're upset, or I see you trying to grab that toy. I'm going to help you in just a minute. You're responding. You're letting them know, I hear you. You have a need, and I'm going to help you. I can't do it right this second, but I am going to help you. Just by speaking to them and letting them know that you are there and that you were going to help them and meet that need for them. And then do that once you have the ability. Also, we want to have warmth and empathy in our interactions. And so when we're talking about warmth, you know, it's hugging, it's holding our young infants. It's getting on the level of the children that we're working with. So, you know, your 3s, 4s, however old they are, you're going to come to their level when you communicate with them, eye to eye. You're going to give them empathy. You know what? I remember when I fell down and it hurt. How can I make you feel better? Now, obviously, we're going to follow health and safety protocols with washing gloves, washing hands, taking care of any cuts, Band-Aid, what have you. But it's more than that, right? It's more than that. I'm putting a Band-Aid on it. It's, oh my goodness, you are hurt. I'm sorry that you got hurt. You know, do you need a hug? Do you need a pat? What can I do to make you feel better versus just stopping the bleeding? We want to demonstrate that in all of our interactions with children, right? So that's another strategy to building interactions, because it lets the child know that you've experienced what they've experienced. And lets them know that no matter what happens, even in the behaviors we don't like to see, that we are able to respond to them in a way that says, you know what, you bit my friend or you bit this other child and I don't like that. But this is what you can do. You are going to help guide them socially and emotionally, even in the things that we don't like to see. When we are reading to them, singing with them, pointing things out to them and engaging with them, the entire time we want warmth and empathy to be part of those interactions as much as possible. The other and the last strategy I wanted to share is allowing the child ample time, space, and freedom to explore. So once the child and you have started to get in tune with one another, what we're going to do is we're going to put the baby down. You're going to let the children explore. One of the phrases that many of us may have heard in working in child development is open-endedness, right? We want it to be open-ended so that children can get things off of the shelf, having things at their eye level, having things that are age and size appropriate for them so that they can explore. We want to make the environment safe enough so that if they move away from us, we know they're not going to get electrocuted or put their finger in a socket or grab something that's hanging and accidentally choke, or climb up so high on something that they can fall, or open a cabinet that has something that's not safe in there. So we child-proof our environment to allow them to explore, to have that freedom, to move, and then giving them the space to do it. That's why we have a lot of different ideas and thoughts for quality care about how much space each child needs so that they can explore. And then again, the time. So those are strategies to help build those secure-based attachments with children. So what I want us to do now is we're going to do another activity, and it is a breakout session where we are going to go into groups online, kind of like what you see on the picture here, and you are going to read a scenario. You will select a person in your group to read the scenario, and then you are going to work together to apply two of the strategies we talked about that can assist in building a secure base attachment between the adult who may be having issues with working with and being with the child that they're caring for. Then you're going to select a person to share which scenario you had and the two strategies your group selected. So I am going to stop sharing my screen at this.
Back, everyone. We had a few technical issues with the breakout rooms, so we're going to bring everyone back, and Lisa will just facilitate the discussion for us. Thank
Okay,
you for your patience.
what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of the scenarios that I have. And Alexandria, if you can just translate as I read them in Spanish, or you might have it in Spanish so you can share it with the ladies so they can hear the scenario. We're going to go through each scenario, and then we are going to write in chat something that we can do to help the adult who's having the issue in the relationship. So this is the first scenario. The Smith family is a two-parent home with 3 children. Lori is 12 and just started menstruating. Bobby is 5 and has the main attachment with his father. And Quinta is 2 and she loves playing in the toilet. However, the father, who is in the military, is on deployment. The mother, a nurse, works from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning. The father's mother, recently widowed and retired, has moved in to assist with caring for the children. When mom comes home, she goes to bed. The grandmother gets the children up from bed, feeds them breakfast, drops them off to school, keeps the 2-year-old granddaughter with her during the day, picks up the other 2 from school, gives all children a snack, and sets up the table for homework. Between 4 and 5 p.m., the mother gets up, fixes dinner, bathes all the children, gets them down for bed, then gets ready to leave for work by 9. The grandmother has been there for a month now, but is having a difficult time getting the 12-year-old to listen to her, a difficult time getting the 5-year-old to talk with her, and the 2-year-old to stop dumping her food and coloring on the walls. How can we help this grandmother build an attachment with her 3 grandchildren? What are some things that you have heard in talking about the strategies that we can do to help the grandmother? Go ahead and put your response in chat for scenario 1.
Lisa, I'm trying to cut and paste the scenario into the chat box. It's not working, but maybe you can enlarge the scenario on the screen
Sure.
somehow. People can take a glance at it.
There we go. Is
I
that
have
big
it.
enough?
A little bigger will be nice. I have it in Spanish, but we're having some technical issues. So let me keep trying to get it into the chat box.
Okay. Do you see that? Does that look big on the screen? I enlarged it.
Much better. I have it in the chat box in Spanish now.
Okay.
So Alejandra, you can see it in the chat box. I'll go ahead and put it in English for people to be able to see it in 2 places.
Okay.
And then people are just going to respond in the chat box, correct?
Yes. Just what is 1 or 2 strategies to help the grandmother build the attachment with the children, with her grandchildren?
Everyone should be able to see it on the screen and in the chat box in English and Spanish. And it looks like Jackie did upload the Spanish scenarios, Lisa, into the chat box.
Okay. If you have any questions, you can ask regarding the scenario.
Lisa, are you seeing information come into the chat box?
No.
Okay, so let's be sure everyone understands. So you're asking us to put a thought into the chat box on how we can help the grandmother in this situation, correct?
Yes, and so we talked about being emotionally and physically available. We talked about, you know, having the ability to allow space, time to explore. So when we were looking at those strategies, when you look at these scenarios, what are things that you think can help the grandmother build an attachment?
Mm.
Someone messaged me directly. So does that make sense to the person who messaged me directly? The 4 strategies that we discussed. What of those strategies do you think will help the grandmother to build an attachment? And you're just going to put your response in chat. Those of you who are on screen that I see you, do you have any questions? Do you understand? I see Angela and Jesus and Pablo, Becky. Do you guys have any questions about what we need to put in chat?
There's some good ideas coming in the chat box now.
Okay. Okay, so look at this. Find activities that the children will enjoy, such as coloring. So we know that the 2-year-old likes to color, so we can give her an appropriate way to do that. I think that the mom and grandma need to sit the children down, talk with them, communicate. So use the mom as a bridge. That's an excellent strategy. She can ask them and respond to their needs. 12-year-old might want to know more about her cycle. So being emotionally and physically present for that kind of change of life for the 12-year-old, absolutely. Playtime together with each child. Spending more time with them. They haven't been with each other very long. Interaction with the children to show warmth and empathy. Give attention, necessary attention. Look into military or community resources. Perfect. We're going to look at one more scenario. We're going to come down here, and it is scenario 3. And we're going to do the same thing. So Richard is 10 years old. He has been in the foster care system his whole life. In his 10 years, he has been placed 9 times. His resource parents are new to the system. They are in their mid-30s and have no children of their own. They both work from home and create their own work schedules. They have a 6-figure income and live in an upscale neighborhood. They both have master's degrees and the father is working on his doctorate. Richard has been in the home a week. He makes little to no eye contact. He cries often, wets the bed at night, and speaks very little. What are some things we can give based on what we've talked about, or some strategies we can give to these 2 parents to build an attachment with Richard? And you're going to put those responses in chat. How can we help these resource parents build an attachment with Richard? So once you have read this, you'll go ahead and put your response in chat. And we'll just give that a couple minutes. Investigate activities that Richard likes and engage with him with things that he likes. So it's creating things that can have an interactions with him. What would be another strategy? Supply a very constant and stable environment. Engage with him on a regular basis. Yes. Spend time with him. Be physically and emotionally available to him. And then have a playful conversation. Find out what his favorite foods, toys, movies are. Consider taking him to a child therapist and speech therapy. So yes, we do want to find out, okay, wow, he's not talking, what's going on there? And so while we're finding that out, what are other things we can tell the parent to do to build that trust with the child? The resource parents can engage more of emotional support, making time to build a bond with Richard by getting to know what he enjoys. If he is unsure, exploring different interests. So providing different things to see what Richard is interested in and what he gravitates to. And yes, the time piece is really important. We see that he's been placed 9 times. Excuse me. So one of the things is maybe, my goodness, let's not give up on him after a year or less than a year. Let's see if we can't be with him a little longer. So when we come across different scenarios like this, whatever we're doing, whether we are a resource parent ourselves and receiving a new child into our home, or we're caregivers who are working with children daily and we have a new group of children, or we're parents, we want to make sure that we are building those strong, trusting relationships through providing attachments with young children. So I'm going to stop and pull back up our presentation. So I want us to kind of camp on here a little bit. And the reason why is because, once again, when we talk about attachment, a lot of it is geared from what the parent needs to do for the child. You know, the parent needs to do this, or they need to learn how to do this. The caregiver needs to learn how to do this. Well, this is a quote that Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, said. He said, just as children are absolutely dependent on their parents for sustenance, even in the most primitive communities, parents are dependent on a greater society for economic provision. If a community values its children, it must cherish their parents. And so what I want you to do now is go ahead and write in chat how parents or caregivers can be supported to build healthy, secure-based attachments with the children they're caring for. What do parents need? So just quickly, you can write one-word responses or a sentence or two on what you think we need to do for parents and caregivers in order for them to be able to build healthy, secure-based relationships with children. And then put that in your chat box. Support. Suggestions, background information, understanding the child. Yes, absolutely. Any other responses to what we can provide parents? Showing their love for their kids, be present for them, be understanding of what they're going through. Listen. Being present. Also maybe providing some of those resources like what we saw in the video where the parent was able to go and learn. If the parent doesn't know, providing them opportunities to learn and grow and building those relationships. The final thing that I want to say about this is, parents and caregivers, all of us, we live our lives caring for other people. And when we do that, a lot of times our cup gets a little empty. And when you're running on empty, it is very hard to build an attachment and a trusting relationship with children, because we need to be full. And so this is my plug for self-care, that as caregivers and parents who are working with young children, we need to make sure that we don't burn out. I like cars. Cars is my thing, but you know what will happen if I don't put oil in the engine and I just go and go and go and go and go and go? The oil's going to dry up and the engine's going to blow. And we don't want that to happen to us. So I want to just encourage you to do some self-care. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some self-care. I'm going to play this video and I want you to relax. And I want you to close your eyes and I just want you to allow the music to wash over you. And then I'm going to take you through a couple sitting stretching exercises. So I'm going to go ahead and start this now. Don't you just love technology, you guys? It is amazing. So I'm going to play this video. There we go. So just let the music wash over you. Okay, so if you can hear me, you can see me. I want you to go ahead and I want you to stretch your hands up and just push as high up as you possibly can and stretch your arms and your torso, and you're just stretching upward. And now you're going to bring your hands just gently down and relax your muscles. And you're going to do the same thing and you're just going to push everything out, tense. Push it all out. Let it go out through your palms. Just push everything out. And relax your muscles and bring your hands in and squeeze yourself. Give yourself a big hug. I'm going to do it again. You're going to take everything off of you and you're going to push it up. Push it up out into the sky. And you're going to relax your muscles and you're going to bring them down. And you're going to push out. And relax your muscles and give yourself a big hug. And then you're going to just relax your whole self and just close your eyes and just let the music and the water wash over your mind. And move your head around. Okay, so that concludes our time together. If you have any questions, let's go ahead and I can take your questions and answer them. You can put them in chat. Or you can unmute yourself and you can ask any questions about the information that you heard. Share any comments or aha moments. This is your time to share what you think, questions.
Lisa, this is Kathleen, and I just wanted to emphasize that in the beginning, when you did the word cloud and everyone was putting words such as love and protection and guidance, which are all incredibly important, I just loved that you emphasized it all starts with attachment. So at the end of the day, when we walk away from this workshop, I love that everyone who is someone in the life of a child walks away knowing I really need to focus on building that secure attachment is such a primary goal for us as human beings. So I really liked that. It stood out a lot to me.
Okay, I see some comments. In chat, it's important to model self-care to our children as well. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. They need permission by themselves and others to have rest and rejuvenating time. Yes. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? Okay, thank you guys so much for allowing me to share with you today. I am going to turn it back over to Dr. Kathleen. And I thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. I'm really excited that I got to be with you here today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I do see in the chat box, it was very helpful on understanding attachment for adults, for children. I believe people really felt that ending routine of self-care. We like to talk about it, but we don't always like to do it. And it is essential. So I saw so many people participating. I love that push it up and push it away and come on in. That just felt really great. So Jackie has placed an evaluation for our presentation in the chat box. So we ask all of you, if you can please fill out the evaluation. I also want to let you know to keep your eyes peeled. By the end of this week, we will be sending out upcoming trainings for the month of March. And what we're focusing on in March are some of the specific categories that people asked for in our training assessment survey. So what we did was we did a big assessment survey and all of you replied, about almost 100 of you, and we took the top 6. And we plugged them in the first few times. And now there were some specific areas we're going to look into bringing information to you in the month of March. So there will be probably 3 trainings coming out of the Care Provider Training Program. You will receive that information through Jackie and the Partnership for Safe Families and Communities. And all of the presentations and workshops will be live Spanish interpretation. So we thank you so much. And Lisa, it's such an honor to have you join us. And I know that when we reach out again, you'll be able to come back and join our community and teach us more.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Wonderful information and presentation. Before you log off, please make sure you get the evaluation, the link to the evaluation. We respect and honor everyone's voice. And if you want to put anything in the chat box to let me know what you're hoping to learn about in the upcoming months, put it in there, and we will make sure we bring that information to all of you. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing everyone at the next Care Provider Training Program. The post-evaluation is in Spanish and English. Excellent. And it's just noon, so you can go from learning to lunching.
Yay.
Learning, lunching, and then loving. That's all we're going to do. Thank you so much, Lisa Martin from Judy. And Judy does wonderful work. She's with our police department here, Lisa.
Oh,
And
yay.
she works with children, and attachment is probably, I'm speaking on Judy's behalf in that her audio, I don't know, is on today, but she does amazing work and comes to all of these workshops to help families and keep children safe.
That's
I'm
awesome.
sure attachment's a huge one. All right. And Alexandria, thank you so much for your translation contribution to our Spanish speaking families here. We so appreciate it. We love seeing the MyCop representatives in the house. That's exactly who we all want to be in unity with, all of us. Oh. And I know, Lisa, they're saying how helpful it was, the practical information and those attachment strategies and learning the history and the research behind all of that was really fascinating.
I'm glad. I'm so happy that everyone is really
Yes.
content with the information. That's good. That's really great.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome, Becky. Thank you for always being here and being so committed. I appreciate it. And thank you all for your technological patience. Sometimes that happens.
Yes.
Jackie, who's in charge of it all, got bumped out of the meeting altogether. Then you got to pivot really quickly. Caris, I see you. And I know that you're going to get started with us soon. You've already started your orientation as one of our up-and-coming college interns. I'm so happy that you're here.
That's cool.
Yeah, very exciting. Yes, it was insightful. In El Cariz, we have a mandated reporter training coming up on Thursday. So if you're available, I think you'll learn a tremendous amount with, that would be myself and Senta Green. We're going to keep the trainings rolling, Lisa. That's what we do.
Yes, I think this is really great. You know, I'm so happy that, you know, even in the midst of some of the things that we're experiencing, that the virtual meeting is a option, so that the information is still being shared with people who are really interested in having it.
You know, we really found too, Lisa, that for some parents and families, the virtual space is easier because they don't have to figure out childcare and transportation and getting people
That's
home and
right.
fed. And so we have found for a lot of families, this virtual space is
La
beautiful.
información.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. So it's great.
All right. Well, Jackie, we will hang on just a minute to make sure we get everybody's evaluation. And Lisa, we thank you so much for everything. And we're going to give you 2 minutes of your day back. That's our self-care. We give you 2 minutes of your day back.
Yay. Okay. Well, once again, it was my pleasure. I really enjoyed being on here, and I look forward to any other feedback that you have. I hope that, Jackie, that you enjoyed the information as well, and that it was a blessing for your group.
Absolutely. Well, Jackie's a mother of 4, so I bet it was a blessing.
Yes, I very much enjoyed and participated in the self-care piece.
Yes. So, you know, you can go to YouTube and just type in like relaxation music, and even if just like for a minute, I mean, that was just 3.5 minutes that we did.
I know. That was exactly what was going through my head, is like, how come I don't do this? I seen the YouTube. I'm like, I'm gonna look for that station.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I can actually, you want me to put it in chat for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I will do that.
All right. Jackie, have we already stopped recording?